So, are you clear now on the distinction between the horror genre and the comedy genre?
Stop being an arsehole.
Do you now know?
You stitched me up.
Do you now know who Michael Myers is?
Yes.
Okay. The one from Austin Powers?
Yes.
No, the other
No,
one.
the other one.
Yeah, exactly. Did anyone, if you haven't seen it, please go and check out how I really stitched Nadia up with the Halloween Ends trail.
Elizabeth Millett, nice to see you. Good morning, everyone from Elizabeth Millett, who hasn't made a live for a while, but it's nice and early today, so some people are going to miss it, and there will be some new people here.
Absolutely.
So if you're new, you've just come over from Instagram and you've never seen Coffee Moaning this morning, welcome, welcome. This is Mark.
You'll get a lot of this, and you'll get a lot of that,
Yeah.
and you'll get a lot of this.
And if you stick with it and you like it, subscribe to the channel. It doesn't cost you anything. You just have to click the subscribe button, and then you can join us every day.
Yeah.
Mark usually drinks
A lot
double
of coffee.
espresso. I usually drink coffee with frothy milk and maple syrup. But today I'm fasting.
I was about to say you're farting.
So I'm on my black tea. I've come off my 16.8 over the last week with all the heat. Everything went out the window. And that is one of the things that I really want to correct in my life.
What?
That when the wheels go a bit off in my, well, not really my routine.
The bed with the wheels ever on?
No.
No.
But when they get more wobbly,
Yeah.
then I do tend to throw stuff out. I throw the baby out with the bathwater.
I think a sound effect for you would really be a hubcap rolling down the
Yeah, it
street, wouldn't
would.
it, after impact? That's you.
Yeah. But you find, and 16.8, if you're new to us, check out my 16.8 videos. Oh, we're frozen.
Yeah, so it's
Oh. Mark and I, most of the time, do 16.8, which is just a way of eating for life. It's not a diet.
only clause in that for me is a Magnum every night.
Yeah, and we've been magnuming. So we've come
Or,
off...
or a knobbly.
No, you can have a Magnum every day of the week
What are they
if you're
called?
doing
Knobbly
16.8, but keep it in the 8 hours. And we've come off, and it's really annoying me because I can feel myself putting on weight, and I
Right.
don't want to put any more weight on.
Jess Film Stuff is getting a Burger King today, so don't worry, Nads.
Oh, do you know what? What's happened to
Burger
Burger
King used to be
Kings?
great.
They used to taste so barbecued. I used to love them.
Mm.
Oh my God, a big Whopper. Oh,
And Jess Film says she's done Slimming World and lost 10 pounds. So
Oh, good
is this
for
a
you,
treat?
Jess
Is this
Film.
a sort of treat or a reward? Too much sugar for me with lolly ISIS, says Jane Bentley. Morning,
Yeah.
Christos. Hope you and Natasha are well.
I saw a good...
Angie, hope you're well.
I saw somebody yesterday. They were making a vegan ice lolly, and in it, they've got the ice tray, and they poured in, I don't know, like a soda, like no sugar soda, like I
Yeah.
don't know, 7-Up. I think it was like a 7-Up light, and then in it they put those vegan jelly sweets,
Oh, yeah.
and they looked so
Oh, right.
good. I might have a go at them actually, because whether they actually turn out.
Do you know what I
as
think
good as they
vegan
look.
needs to do? Vegan needs to find a different word. I think the word vegan is really, really annoying.
No, but very quickly it will become another word that people get. But I think people get annoyed with vegans
No,
for some reason.
No, I think veganism needs a facelift, and it's like, you know, even the Tory party, I think, changed their logo. didn't
I
they,
would
to a
disagree.
tree
I
or
think
something.
veganism has had a massive facelift because so
No,
many celebrities.
it has had a facelift, but the word, when I hear the word,
Okay, well, what word would you give for veganism?
something more sort of life-affirming and upbeat, something sort of, I don't know, something sort of like, I don't know, just something flowery and colourful, and you're the master of
anybody-
positivity. What's a positive?
I'll have a think.
Yeah.
But what has
Do you think of a word
anybody
instead of
watched
veganism?
The Bad Vegan on Netflix?
No, you've been saying about this.
What a story. Honestly,
Morning,
you
Ashley.
don't need to actually watch it. I just put my headphones in and I was cleaning up the house and I just listened to it like a documentary radio show. You don't need to sit and watch
Natasha
it. Otherwise,
Thomas, kind eating. That's nice.
kind eating, that's nice.
I like that, Natasha. Hope you're watching.
The other one that you can just listen to without watching, Sweet Pray Obey. Unbelievable. The most
Yeah.
shocking documentary I've ever watched. And I listened to the whole thing in one day. There you go. I'll give you both of those for nothing.
Fabuloni.
Love Island.
I'm going to be checking out. There is a documentary out that I really want to see called McEnroe, and apparently it's really well made. And I've got a lot of time for John McEnroe. But anyway, so that's a documentary tip that has slipped through the
You
old.
know, I had no idea the chaos that was going on
No,
backstage of his life.
No, fascinating. Apparently, this new documentary is a
Does
really
it cover all the
unegotistic.
stuff
Yeah,
with his
covers all his
wife and-
trauma and everything, and how he found himself in this position, and just quite astonishing. I haven't seen it, but it's out. It's very hard to get hold of to go and see. I just wanted to flag up this story just quickly because I didn't want it to get lost and it's not in the title. It's kind of related to the heat wave, but it's just something I've not thought about and I haven't heard the phrase. And this is the singer or the star from Busted whose son nearly died of secondary drowning. And this is something that's really important when it comes to your kids jumping into pools and all that kind of stuff. So Busted star Charlie Simpson's son was rushed to hospital after he'd gone swimming earlier in the day. He'd struggled underwater, he'd lost his breath, came up spluttering and coughing, but kind of made a seeming recovery. But he'd actually swallowed so much water that what happened, he was diagnosed with secondary drowning, which is a condition which is caused when people inhale water and it ends up in their lungs causing irritation and fluid buildup. And so it can end up, a pulmonary edema so you can get home, you can be fine, you can think you've recovered, but you're holding all of these things. It's called secondary drowning. Secondary drowning. So it's not, lots of kids get very sort of irascible when you say, don't just jump in and get this and get that. Be careful. And lots of kids will think, well, I really struggled there and nearly went under. I suppose my point is your kids may come back and say, oh God, such and such really struggled, but we got them out.
So what are you
That's
supposed to do?
That's not the end of the story. Just keep an eye on them. You've just got to make sure that...
So what are the symptoms? Well, look it up.
Sudden tiredness, sudden lethargy and nausea, I think. He started to be sick. It was like he'd had food poisoning.
And they took him to hospital?
Took him to hospital, yeah. Spent 3 days in there. But it's something called secondary drowning. So it's kind of like delayed drowning. Oh, Felicity Cook, it was on an episode of Baywatch 20 years ago, I remember it. So, I just saw that story and I just thought, bloody hell, scary. But yeah, sorry. Did you want to talk about pregnancy? What is this pregnancy loss certificate? Tell us about before we went to talk about the Tories. Let's talk about pregnancy loss certificates.
Well, this is something that's planned to be rolled out, isn't it, later? Well, we don't know when, at some point. This is now something that the government have agreed to. And this is something that I think people have fought for quite a long time.
Right.
So this pregnancy loss certificate would basically acknowledge any pregnancy that a person's had. Now,
of any duration.
Of any duration. Because at the moment you can only get one at 24 weeks.
Right.
Now, first of all, I am a great believer in sharing right from the first...
Just getting the bot. Go on.
I'm a great believer in sharing right at the beginning when you were pregnant, the joy of being pregnant, if of course you want that pregnancy. Because I believe when people share in the joy of it, they can also be there if you were to lose that pregnancy. Because I think because of deep-rooted misogyny going back, God, how many thousands of years, I don't know, women were told to keep their pregnancies a secret because it would be bad luck. Now, actually think about that. Where does that come from? I can only assume that comes from a sense of shame that women have lost a child. So it was like you keep it secret.
I disagree. I think it was probably... do you not think from the medieval it might be more a superstitious thing?
But so much superstition is about control.
Oh,
I believe it will have come from control because there's shame in a woman losing a baby. I mean, you are right there. I mean, it happens
so
now.
Almost like, don't talk about this until you're absolutely
Menopausal
certain.
Women are written off because they're no longer carrying, no longer of reproductive use. So I've always maintained that. I mean, some people love to keep it private because they like this, and of course that's absolutely right. But I think
tempting fate, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, see, but I just don't believe in that. But anyway, so like when we had our miscarriages, all the people that were close to us knew we were pregnant, and then were also, sad for us and had been invested in it the whole time. And the thing is, for me, whether you are sick from the day that you know that you're pregnant, if you want that pregnancy, you're thinking about that life ahead with that pregnancy. I remember the first time that I got pregnant. I mean, Mark and I spent like 2 days. Sadly, we lost that pregnancy, but we were like 2 days. We were away on holiday in Cornwall, and we were just chatting about everything and what school they might go to and what. So I can really understand how important this is going to be for so many people, because it's acknowledgement. Because I think there can be, people will say, well, how many weeks for you? Oh, right. Oh, okay. Like, oh, well, you won't probably be upset and you'll be over this in a couple of days. And it really doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
For a lot of people, they never get over a miscarriage. It's a grief. It's a massive loss. So in that sense, I think that this is amazing. But we were chatting about this earlier, weren't we? And we were saying, I wonder if this would also give a weapon into the hands of pro-lifers.
Well, that was my first thing. So just I got suddenly had a.
I know, it's just like everything was...
No. I had a menopausal moment where I was you were in danger of me flooding. And, but is this a way or a means of sort of, for like employers and stuff like that, sort of giving women the sort of an official kind of recognition that what they've gone through will have some impact on their mood and their, potentially their health and all that? Yeah, I mean, I thought when you mentioned this to me, the first thing I thought was, "Ooh, could this be twisted in a certain way by sort of anti-abortionists and pro-lifers?" Because of course, but as soon as I thought that, I thought, well, the clear distinction is one must be able to talk about a woman's body first, and what's happening within the sanctity of a woman's body first, with a baby or the loss of a baby, versus the life of the baby first. If you know what I mean.
Yeah. Somebody just said there, a certificate so you can get time off. I hadn't thought about that as well.
That's kind of why I thought what the use of it would be.
Because people don't. I don't know what the situation is now, but I think it's not good. Grief leave when you've lost a baby. I don't. Does anybody know what that is? Where we stand at the moment with that?
Amy May, I'd probably choose to wait 12 weeks because it would make me feel so sad to have to tell people I'd lost the baby when my family were all so excited.
Oh, God.
It would just make everything so much harder for me.
I'm just fascinated by the difference of human beings. I totally hear that.
Yeah, totally.
Understand that. Well, no, I hear that as another opinion, but I can't understand that because I so need other people if I'm feeling... Yeah, I couldn't keep it to myself, but that's the wonderful thing about human beings, isn't it? We're all so different.
Emma L2189, thanks to those who sent thoughts and prayed for my mum. Sadly, she passed away last week. I'm devastated. Trying to be strong for my 11-month-old, but it's hard. Can everyone send Emma
big hugs,
another big hug? Another big hug. Really sad. Yeah, I mean, I think this has got to be a good thing, right? I mean, this is something that everyone's very happy about.
Yeah.
Apparently, every day around 14 babies die before, during, or soon after birth in the UK.
Yeah, every day. Also, this is part of this new women's, what are they calling it? Women's health strategy. So the government are investing 10 million into this, which, let's face it, we know 10 million just goes...
Yeah.
10 million is...
Yeah.
But this is off the back of a huge poll done of women around the country, asking them how they feel failed by the medical society. And we've spoken a lot here before, haven't we, about menopause, the fact that only 40% of medical schools even teach anything about the menopause, which is quite extraordinary. The average time for a woman to be diagnosed with endometriosis, a cripplingly painful, agonising condition, 7.5 years. I was listening to a Women's Hour the other day, and they'd done this recordings of all these different women that were just brushed off. Just told, well, you're one of the unlucky ones. Yeah, just put up with it. My God, it's like having a hand put up inside and twisted and twisted and twisted. Can you imagine a man putting up with that? And there is just a whole lot of misogyny rooted in our medical society. So, yeah, it sounds like a paltry sum, really, in this big scheme of things. But at least there is some movement and some understanding that women do very much get left behind.
Kind of puts you in mind of... Sorry, no, I cut myself there, Shavy.
Because you're all over the place today. Get yourself settled.
I think it puts you in mind of the fact that last week there were a few stories about how the medical establishment and world was having its #MeToo moment. Toxic masculinity in the surgery theatre, operating theatre, in hospitals,
so sexist.
in hospital, what they called.
I've been, when I used to work in the hospital for City Hospital, I couldn't believe the way some of the men.
But I think there's it's a bit of a moment. Nurses being treated almost like, in the way that the awful way that air hostesses were treated. That sort of idea of women. And again, if you think about the very structure of the idea, sort of historically, of female nurses baked into the medical process, is a patriarchal system and a toxic masculinity that has obviously trickled down into diagnosis,
Look at the way
treatment,
look at the way
medication,
that
everything.
men took over gynecology, took over birthing of babies.
I think it's very...
You know, I an obstetrician, so many more of them are men. And when midwives were doing, you know, and they say all these like really precious skills that midwives had, so there would be less intervention for women are being lost.
Claire Mallin, losing my twin girls at 17 weeks.
Oh,
Claire,
God.
even though I knew their real, their real pregnancy loss certificate would validate it to everyone else. Yeah, a pregnancy loss certificate would validate it. A few people said, "Oh, you won't have that attached."
Yeah, you
You're
see,
not
Claire,
far
I'm
along.
so sorry. Yeah,
You're
that's
not-
what.
Sorry.
How can people say that? I mean, my God. I mean, if you're a really young person, I could see how you might just not know those things of the world yet. But this is like, men and women will say this to other women who've had kids. Yeah.
Yeah, if I'm honest, until I think more recently about, I mean, even when we went through our miscarriages, we did a How to Stay Married about this, but, you know, I would never have talked to my male friends back in my drinking days about that sort of thing. It just wouldn't, it would have been a
I think
curse.
men would more now.
I think
Yeah.
they would more now. And
Not enough.
Not enough, no, but also, and this kind of weirdly links me into, and this idea around whether men have the emotional capacity or inclination to talk about these matters. One of the things I'm surprised about, and Love Island, sorry to raise it, but Love Island is in the press again because Women's Aid, the charity, has been talking with Love Island around misogyny and controlling behaviour. And I
remember rightly, they did last year as well. I was thinking about this. I think every year they do.
I think this story has become conflated with individual members of the House, most notably people like Luca and Dami, I think. But I think Women's Aid, when you read into it, I think Women's Aid themselves say that they've been in discussions with Love Island about claims or instances of misogyny and controlling behaviour, though they don't talk about specific events. And, you know, ITV are very sort of transparent about the fact that, yes, we've been talking about it too.
But it's, you know, Love Island is society.
Yeah.
This is the reality outside of Love Island. We've got daughters, and my God, we are still in a very fucked up world with the way that so many young people's relationships are so bloody toxic. And what is permissible, and actually I really, really believe in programmes like Love Island. You might find that weird that I'm saying that.
Just for Sean Thomas, do no spoilers over the last 2 episodes. We won't. We'll try not to talk about it as in a right. Yeah.
We won't. We have great conversations out of what feels right, what feels wrong, red flags, all of this stuff. And I think we want to see in plain sight relationships so we can have those discussions, because like I said to my daughter yesterday, I said, you know, the thing is, there'll be some people that through the conversations that are going on about Love Island at the moment will go, oh God, what is that not right then? When my boyfriend says to me, and what have you been doing, who have you been speaking to, and where have you been going, and all that. They might not even have consciousness that that's not okay, because I'm seeing a lot of stuff, particularly yesterday, that I would think that girl is very smart and she's got no idea what just happened.
I mean, look, let's not beat around the bush. Broadcasters use the phrase social experiment as a very clear excuse for sensationalist ratings-winning programming. It's the trope. It's what, if you're pitching at a channel an idea and you come close to any kind of potentially psychologically dubious, potentially kind of consequences, you know, obviously it does have to go through all sorts of legal, psychotherapy, you know, duty of care procedures and all that kind of stuff. But at its essence, as with Big Brother, you call it a social experiment. You need to tick a few other boxes to make it such. It is a way of controlling reality and encouraging behaviour of a certain type. Now, there's a fine line between what's the responsibility of the programme and what's the responsibility of the person in there responding to what the programme puts in their way. So a classic example of that, I know Jacques, whatever you call him, who's coming for a lot of stick. I think the most excellent thing...
Jack hasn't.
No, but he was doing about his treatment when he was in there. But I think one of the most excellent things he did do was he recognised that he was hitting the buffers of his own behaviour in there, and he had the right to pull himself out.
He knew he couldn't control his behaviour.
Yeah, but they all have the right to leave, and obviously the dangle of the prize and all that kind of stuff is the thing that keeps them in. So you know, it's carrot and stick, and so there's all these question marks. There's huge question marks around this, and you'll never get a right answer. No one will ever be in full agreement. But what I do think about this show, which is why I've kind of come to it, and I think it's curious about this misogyny thing. I think your point is really accurate. Because we've seen it on a show doesn't mean that the show is saying it's right, and it doesn't mean that it is right. And it doesn't mean, but also does it mean that we should hide all that behaviour so that we don't understand it? Because I think, like you say, we've had more conversations about red flags and male behaviour and how men can be controlling or not in an indirect fashion as a consequence of the programme than if it hadn't been on.
Absolutely.
And I think that's the case for a lot of people.
And I think I'm quite annoyed that we can't talk more freely about individuals in there, and the reason for that is because trolls have got their teeth into this, and trolls who probably don't even watch the show are putting out death threats, chasing after people's families, and that is just disgusting, because at the end of the day, these are all young people trying to manage and navigate difficult things in front of a whole pile of TV cameras. But I do think there's been lots of interesting behaviours, and I think that I'm going to name Danika, because I think Danika, wow, that character, she is illustrating.
She's a manifestation of resilience.
It does make me laugh when people say she thinks she's in The Apprentice. She's illustrating what it's actually like to be in the dating world. She's on this great big ship. There are waves hitting her. She is being buffeted and thrown out the ship and getting back in, and she is constantly trying to stay strong and focused and able and true and strong in who she is and what she is. But she's in a boxing ring, isn't she?
Yeah, no, she's
and if we just focus on her and not think about all the other people that are spinning around, and we watch what she's going through and how she's having to deal with all these different situations, it tells us so much.
Shel Summer, you're absolutely right. It still took producers days to let him go. We will never know the full truth of that. That's the other point here is that the press will, you'll never know the full truth to the extent to which he wanted out or didn't want out.
Being told the truth.
No.
Okay, I've been on Loose Women for the last 25 years. I've been in reality shows. I'm not one of those that wants to bleat on about editing and all of that, but trust me.
It's called constructive.
There is a whole lot of shit you don't see. And also, on Loose Women, we could have a discussion for 8 minutes that is perfectly amiable and and one person can tweet something that's really nasty, and then the online papers will make that a headline. The audience are disgusted with the behaviour, and then it was, oh God, and then that's why I never read them, because it's a total fabrication. It's a manipulation of everything. So I always say, unless you're watching it,
it's called
with a big pinch of salt,
constructed reality for a reason.
Yeah.
It's constructed. It's a construct. It's all constructed, and it's very interesting. The other point, I would argue that there is an experiment of sorts there. I think it is important to see behaviour. I think much better is someone like, rather than, I do worry that there's an aspect of people who've clearly been upset by Luca's, in inverted commas, controlling behaviour. But I do worry that there is an aspect of modern day trolling, which is one in which they feign sympathy or concern for someone, and they use that as a justification and as a kind of clarion call to others to go rushing in to double down and then manipulating everyone.
So be careful.
So to have an opinion is one thing, but I think when Luca comes out, I think he'll see how he's been. There'll be room and scope for Gemma to decide whether she stays with him or doesn't stay with him. And we have to remember that anyone in that set of circumstances
Jack,
is incredibly
Billy,
unusual.
Dammy, every one of them. Marie Cartwright, oh my God, endometriosis is agony, yeah. 30 years of unbearably painful. And 30 years before you found a doctor that would bloody look at you. And this is actually another good point. It damages other organs, it moves onto other organs. Wow, 30 years. I mean, that is just That's life-changing, isn't it? That sort of, yeah.
Yeah,
Let's hope this
absolutely.
charter means that, and it's not just a load of puff. Let's hope it's actually a charter that's actually going to make a difference.
Yeah. So that's obviously Women's Aid, and as I think, I think it's good that Women's Aid are in discussions with the channel. And I think, I think view this story more as they should hold hands as organisations as they move around it. So I'm sure that again ITV will be doing their due diligence.
See what Ashley said. Anyone who hasn't checked out Maddie's new song?
Oh, Bad Mood.
That's our
absolutely.
girl, Bad Mood. If you check it out.
I just wanted to share Ian Dale, who's a Conservative LBC radio presenter who rarely comes off the fence. He's a very diplomatic chap. He is incandescent and spitting feathers. No, he annoys me a bit. Yeah, but even he says that the print media, the right-wing print media, should be ashamed of themselves for manipulating loads of awful stories about the various leaders, and they've squeezed things down to a choice between Tweedledee and Tweedledum from Boris Johnson's own fucking cabinet. Rishi Sunak has become, more I see of him, the more I don't trust him. He's demonstrated, and he's demonstrated even in the way that he's won the leadership election, that he's willing to do underhand tricks to get a viable competitor out. So his first move is equivalent to what Boris Johnson does.
This idea that they can get 2 votes, so you can vote once, and then just before the votes are counted, they can change their mind. Now, apparently, they are saying this is totally stacked for Rishi, totally. This has never been done before, so they're changing the fucking rules again to suit them. It's like, Boris has gone, but the same rot is in there.
So even within the Conservative Party, this completely fraudulent idea that the democratic processes are being observed, it's a total fucking con. It drives me nuts. We have to campaign for PR, and in PR, anyone who's a true proportional representationer agrees that within that you will get political opinions that you don't agree with. That's not the problem here. But this fraudulent idea, this fake idea that people are voting fairly for things, it's such a fucking stitch up. I find myself in the most oddest position where I'm thinking, well, I'm only drawn to Truss because she was originally against Brexit. So, I mean, Truss, I can't even fathom.
You can't say that. Brexit is done now. You can't be...
No, I know. But the fact that she was anti it to begin with means she must have done some joined-up thinking around it that makes sense. Because no one...
What do you mean in that she... Well,
in that she's obviously towed the party line now, but I mean,
of course.
But originally she obviously had concerns with it, and I want to know the trust that had those original concerns with it.
I don't want to talk any more about Brexit with new people coming in, because I think all Brexit did was divide people. Brexit is now done, however many years, and I don't want that to be used in any elections, because it just is a really easy way to manipulate people's feelings and get them all riled up.
Yeah, but that's exactly what Rishi's going to do. Rishi is going to win. Rishi's going to win by saying she originally was anti-Brexit.
But
that's it, and that's going to be the ticket.
That's pathetic.
So Rishi's
that makes him look pathetic. Tell us what you're going to do. Don't attack her. Tell us what you're going to do to help us out of this mess. Rishi's won because he's fixed it.
Yeah, he's rigged it. He's rigged it. And I just wish the Labour Party would jump up and down and go, this has been rigged. But the point is they want it rigged, because either one of these means that they'll probably win.
But the Labour Party were very pleased Penny Mordaunt didn't get in, because she would have been a problem for them.
We were going to talk about
moving the goalposts, exactly, Sarah Fox.
We were going to talk about this, but I think this needs to be a mental health chat all of its own, and we're nearly at time.
So let's leave it.
We're going to talk about something around chemical imbalances, antidepressants, and whether antidepressants, serotonin inhibitors are the right things.
This is off the back of one research paper, so there's going to be more research, but it's quite an interesting
puts question marks. But the final story I just wanted to share, which I thought was a really nice story, Waterstones hails an uptick in book sales thanks to TikTok's BookTok section.
That's where Kiki finds her books.
And TikTok. I think we too often talk about how social media destroys and erodes and gobbles up the kind of grey matter of brains and doesn't help anyone's attention span, but actually TikTok has helped with book sales, and I think
lessons in chemistry.
Yeah, no, it's supposed to be very good. And I think that is just brilliant. I think anything that encourages youngsters to read, anything that encourages youngsters to have critical thinking or to reach beyond their safety zone.
TikTok book recommendations have completely changed the game for book sales.
Yeah.
Because Kiki found this book last year, and it was like
It's
it was,
creative,
it was a
look at
very
this.
funny thing in this house because neither Mark nor Nanny Di had heard of it. So it was like really just wow, Keeks, how did you do that? Where'd you find it? She said, TikTok.
The social media platform's power of recommendation has spurred huge rises in sales, with romance, fantasy, dark academia, and manga proving particularly popular. We have first-hand evidence of that. TikTok users' recommendations have completely changed the game for booksellers. I just think that's brilliant.
I mean, Kiki was reading a 100-year-old Japanese
Oh my God, it was so
story,
good. Yeah.
novel.
Yeah.
That 100.
It's
So
like
we're
a-
not, it's not all just, you might think, oh, TikTok, what, throwaway books. No, this
No,
was
I
like,
went to beside her
you,
bed
you
and I
needed
saw
some
a
rigour
book,
to read
a
it.
book with the title, with an author's name I couldn't pronounce, and it said Pulitzer Prize winner. What the fuck is
Where
this?
she found
Who the
out
fuck
about
is
this?
Where's this come from?
TikTok.
Yeah. So
Also,
if you like a book club, on our Sunday show we have a book club too.
Also, Kiki uses TikTok for lots of tips with her GCSEs because a lot of teachers are still
Research
stuck
tips.
in such old ways. But these TikTokers, these young people, this is how, like the way Maddie's boyfriend gives Kiki tips on how to do. It's like that. It's tips on really usable tips. So don't always assume when your child says they're on TikTok that they're doing something negative, because there's a whole lot of really, and like the girls say, if something comes up you don't want to see, you say, I don't want to see it, and you're not shown any of that stuff before. So the more they look at the good stuff, the more the good stuff is fed
Yeah,
to
the
them.
more you look at a book to read, the more it's going to suggest
The
books
more
to
it
read.
suggests books to read.
How to Stay Married is landing later. All about red flags. When to spot them, when you see them, what are they, how many can you have? And if you collect red flags, maybe you should get some white